weekly review of me building Evra Studios, which is going to start as a snail mail company who sends pieces of a fantasy story every week for a year. So I'm doing these weekly vlogs more for myself, but also because content's like the thing, right? But I think I'm gonna want to look back. And also, I think that there's a lot of merit and value to building in real time. It's the kind of content that interests me, and I'm at a perfect point to do it in terms of just where I'm at with Evra Studios as a whole. So this is kind of the first real week where I've put a lot of time and attention to Evra Studios. I'm calling it Evra Studios now because I went through a whole branding thing. Branding is super important, but it's also very challenging to get a brand name that not only like doesn't mean something weird in another language or have like weird issues or isn't taken, but it also needs to be something that you can say or be willing to say or be happy to say for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? So I had a brand name and I couldn't get the .com for it. I had built kind of my whole funnel and did my Facebook ad account under this brand name, and then I realized I couldn't get a .com. I had a .io, and that was a little too tech bro for a creative story driven company. So I just needed to find a real brand name for me to launch from, which ended up being a challenge. I was struggling to find something that felt representative. I kind of took inspiration from other companies, so Studio Ghibli, as an example. Essentially, Miyazaki chose the name because he wanted to blow a hot desert wind through the anime industry, like, to bring change. Disney is obviously Walt's last name, right? Disney didn't mean anything until Walt and everyone else made it mean something. So I spent a lot of time thinking through what I wanted at the core of the name and the brand and what it meant to me and what was really important. And then also, dumb as it sounds, like a very close second in importance is like, can I get the .com? I needed it to not be trademarked. I needed it to not be something that was in the media space, right? Nothing in Hollywood. I needed to be able to hopefully get as many of the social media handles as possible. And so I kind of went on this long journey of like falling in love with a name, not being able to get it, and around we went until ultimately I was able to secure evrastudios.com, and it just became the name that felt right to me. So I have a brand name, I have the domain secured, I have the social media accounts secured, excluding Facebook because I haven't been able to rebrand Facebook, or rename Facebook rather, because my ads are still in review. So it's now been 7 full business days since I submitted my ads, and they're still in review, and hopefully that means Monday they will be released, but there's no telling really. If they aren't released, I will have to escalate to the actual like account servicing. What I'm finding is new accounts have always kind of gotten flagged, right? Because Facebook got into a lot of trouble with some scammy advertising back in the early days. So they flag new accounts. Like, I had to do a whole like KYC thing, the way that you do for anything that's like super sensitive. I had to do that for my Facebook ad account when I opened the new business suite and new ad account for this company. And then I added all my personal information and my business information, and I did all of the things. I submitted my ads, and then they were like, hey, it's going to take 5 to 7 business days to review. And I was like, oh, it's a lie, right? They're going to say that and they'll be done in 24 hours. They're almost always done in 24 hours. It was not a lie. So I am past 7 business days. Friday was my 7th business day, so Monday would be 8. And hopefully that means that, like, they will be approved by then. If not, I have a way to escalate it. I would really rather just rename the business suite and the ad account that I have rather than starting over again with a full KYC. But if I have to, I will. And so that's kind of, I'm in a holding pattern on ads with Meta right now. But the new Meta AI assistant that they have in the platform is a godsend, because you can ask it anything. It will explain your exact issue, right? Whatever your exact error is or where things are, right? It can give you more detail, not as much as like an account specialist or a human, but it's just so much less of a black box than it used to be. It's really, really, really nice. So that's kind of the positive, right? Is now it's a lot easier for me to understand why and what's happening and what's going on and kind of have a path to escalation if necessary. I'm really hoping that like tomorrow I will wake up and it'll all be fine. If it's not, I'm gonna have to decide if I want to escalate or if I just want to start fresh and go through the whole KYC process again. The problem with the KYC process is it took like 2, maybe 3 weeks for all of that to be approved and for me to actually be able to then create an ad account. So that's just more time to delay on trying to run ads to cold traffic and see what product market fit would look like. So one of the other things that I have done and that is proving to be really effective right now is the time blocking technique that I'm using. So the time blocking that I'm using is I'm basically just I take time on Sundays, right, before I record any of these videos to, well, now do a weekly review and then block out my week. I get to the point where I block out when I wake up, I block out when I work out, I block out when I eat, right? Like I need a level of structure because the other thing that I also need is both accountability but data points. So when I'm having a difficult time believing that I have done anything right or that I'm making progress or kind of feeling a little down in the dumps, I can then look back and be like, okay, well, actually, I did do all of this based on the color coding. And it helps me to be honest about where I'm spending my time, right? And manage myself and the level of work and effort that I'm putting in. And so it's been super helpful for me to be able to quantify of like, I block out my whole week and then I color code like I did do this, I didn't do this. And the important thing is really that I don't like shuffle time blocks around to pretend like I was super productive. I also adjust the time for a task based on what it actually took. Sometimes it's way faster than I thought it would be, and other times it's way longer than I thought it would be. Both are okay, but it's really important to know, like, oh, I struggle with X, right? So I do need to give myself a little more time for that. Or, oh, this took me no time at all, and like is a really quick thing to do, and I should just, be mindful of that. It also helps me to kind of not allow work to expand to fill the time, right? So if I gave myself an hour to do a 15-minute task, I would find a way to make that 15-minute task take an hour. So work will always expand to fill the time that you give it, which often allows for a lot of bloat and a lot of time wasting. And it also lets me know where I'm spending more of my time, because where you spend your time is what you're actually prioritizing. So kind of along with that is also that nothing takes nearly as long as you think it will if you use the tools that are available to you. So I will not use AI in the creative process of what I am doing. So AI is not going to write the letters. AI is not going to design anything in terms of like what goes into the envelopes, any of the art pieces, right? Like I do want all that to be human made. I do want to support human artists and authors and creators and all that stuff. But on the business side of the equation, AI is fantastic. Really great example. Gemini will build a whole spreadsheet and like do data entry for you, and it is a godsend. I do not have spreadsheet brain. I don't have it. Spreadsheets are like, to create a spreadsheet is physically and mentally taxing for me because it never turns out the way I know a spreadsheet could. And so for me to get it from like iteration number 1 that doesn't really work to iteration number 2 that works okay to iteration number 3 that works slightly better, right, to all the way to probably iteration 10 or 12 where it's finally doing what it needs to do in a way that is clean and actually usable and helpful, is hours of my time. Whereas I can just be like, hey, Gemini, make me this Google Sheet. And it spins it up in like 5 minutes to the point where it is actually usable and beneficial. Massive game changer, right? Why wouldn't I do that? I'm building a list of people to reach out to who, they're creators and influencers. They have communities of people who really love to read fantasy stories, right? The kinds of people I would want to see these letters. And so I'm building a database of them essentially inside of a spreadsheet so I can track when I've reached out to them and what I said and when I did it and what the outcome is and how many times I followed up and all that stuff. That would have taken me probably 60 to 90 minutes. And it sounds like it's a really simple thing, but I'm telling you, I don't know what it is. I start seeing like rows and columns and cells, and my brain is just like, no. So I typed what I needed into Gemini, and then I just copied and pasted all of the data that I wanted, like, put into the columns and rows, and it just did it. And so instead of 90 minutes later, like 15 minutes later, I have a really strong start to this database for me to do all of this outreach, which is rad. So that then gives me well over an hour back for me to do literally anything else that will move the company forward, because me building the spreadsheet isn't going to get my letters in front of readers. So, along with outreach, it is the thing that gets people to know that you exist. It is the thing that lets you connect with humans who are going to want your product. And you're like, I know, right, that there are fantasy readers out there who want these letters. I know that. But for me to then, like, reach out to someone and be like, hey man, I made this thing. You want to share it with your audience? Like, it's gonna be rad. Is eh, inside. And the reason it's so important to do it is because the way I feel about it is the way literally 99% of people feel. No one wants to do this. No one wants to send a cold email. No one wants to send a cold DM, because whether it's fear of rejection or feeling awkward or feeling inferior, right? It doesn't really matter what it is, right? Nobody wants to do it, which is exactly why the person who's willing to be uncomfortable, to move past those feelings, is the person who is going to go do it and therefore get people to buy, right? Or get people to know that they exist. Whatever it is, get feedback, whatever the goal is, doesn't matter. This is how you do it. It sounds so stupidly simple. And if it's so stupidly simple, why don't more people do it? Because it doesn't feel good. It feels scary and intimidating and all of those things that you don't like, right? But it's really important. This is the part where I make an excuse as to why I've not done my outreach. I had to rework my whole website, and I had to get a new active campaign instance. I built my social media, right? And so I've been working on the website and the new copy and trying to aesthetically make it nice, and I have to do a little bit of the back end API connection from ActiveCampaign to my website host. All that to say, I've not started outreach yet. That was two very glaring things on my calendar last week. There were two 1 hour blocks that are very, very red because I didn't do it at all. And my goal this week is to do outreach anyway, to get the website to a point where it is functional, and to start doing some social media posting talking about what I'm doing, whether it's me finishing this YouTube video and using some shorts or just kind of taking photos and whatever, but having some presence so I don't look like some weird random bot. Because I have noticed there's a lot of AI generated ads for snail mail companies, because people are kind of seeing the, I don't know if I want to say white space, but seeing the demand. And so I want to make sure that I am presenting myself as a real human who is doing this, not as like someone who just generated some ads and copied and pasted something from Claude and threw money behind it. So those are the kinds of things I want to have in place before I start reaching out. Most of my time last week was spent on the rebrand. I did do some sort of like deep research on like, okay, well, if ads aren't working, right, if I'm stalled on ads, what's the best way for me to go do this, right? And who are the people I want to reach out to, and how do I want to reach out to them? And then I secured my name across the actual domain and then across socials. I started up all of those social accounts. I did get my active campaign instance up. There's still a few things I need to do on the website, but I did do all of my brand coloring. So I do have a brand style guide and fonts, right? All that fun stuff. So I did all of that, and I did get my website, I would say 75% there. I'm still not super happy with the wording and the copy, but directionally speaking, it's better. I built my survey. I also kind of have a go forward plan again for who I want to outreach to, and how I want to do that and what that's going to sound like. And so this week is more along the lines of like, I just need to button up a few things. I need to start the kind of social organic content. I need to edit and post this video. I have no idea how long editing is going to take. I've done a little bit of it before, but it's certainly not my strong suit. And, hopefully the ads will get approved so that I can start getting some cold audience feedback for the waitlist. But at the end of the week, I would like to say that I did start outreach, and I would love to say that ads started running and I have some feedback there, but that one's out of my control beyond like escalating it if it doesn't get approved tomorrow. And then I would like to have this video posted, edited and posted, and then start working on some social content and get that posted too. So it's going to be a big week that's coming up. Last week was a really good kind of like first week in the seat of trying this new time blocking, starting some planning, and putting some really meaningful thought behind what I'm doing, where I ultimately want it to go, and what really matters to me. So, it's going to be an iterative process, but so far I think my system is working really well. And so as long as I'm sticking to the plan that I have set for myself, right, then I will be able to accomplish all of the things that I not only want to, but the things that I have committed to, right? The things that I have said that I will do. Setting yourself up for success is really important, but what matters the most is that whatever system you put up is something that allows you to act. Taking actual action instead of just like planning. I'm really excited to head into this next week. I will probably need to tidy these up at some point, but it matters more to me that I capture the process and capture who I am in this moment and where things are at and what I've done than it is to have something super polished. For now, I don't really mind if these weekly diaries are messy. My hair. What really matters is that I kind of post them, even if it's just for myself. So, anyway, I will check in a week's time.